Every RPG needs a place where your story starts, and in WINDBOUND, it's taverns just like this one. So there's really no better place to talk to you from than the same place you start. WINDBOUND's grown into a fairly big game, and it's not really slowing down anytime soon. So this feels like a good moment to actually let you into some of the world, and not just what it looks like, but how it's being built. I don't want these videos to be updates or trailers. I just want somewhere I can talk to you about how WINDBOUND's actually being made, and answer some of the questions I know people are curious about. So, let me start with what kind of game WINDBOUND is shaping into. At its core, WINDBOUND is an open world RPG, but one that's built around experimentation. Each character that you make is a bit of a run in itself. You try things, you push a build, you see how far it can go. And when that build comes to an end, it doesn't feel like a reset. What you've learned and what you've unlocked opens up more possibilities for the next run. You see, WINDBOUND's built to support a lot of different classes and archetypes, and more importantly, the overlap between them. You don't, however, just pick one class and stick with it. Over a character's life, you'll pick up several, each class from a different category, each with its own playstyle and its own quirks. And getting these classes isn't just a menu choice, or going to an NPC and paying him in gold. Each one has its own path to unlock it, its own story, its own challenges, and its own little adventure along the way. Over time, the world starts to feel familiar, but your options within it will keep expanding. And that idea is kind of at the heart of WINDBOUND. We want the world itself to be something that you grow into, not something you finish and move on from. As you spend more time in it, you start to understand how things fit together, the places, the factions, the people who live there, but there is always more going on under the surface. The hope is that WINDBOUND feels like a place that existed before you arrived, and it will keep existing after you leave. If you care about the lore, it's there for you, and if you don't, well, the world still works. Anyway, I think that is enough of my rambling. I don't want to send you all to sleep with my talking points. So, I think this is a good time to answer some of the questions that you have been asking, and I'll show a few bits of the gameplay as well whilst we're at it. Alright, so, how will WINDBOUND be unique from other games in the same genre? I think the biggest difference is intent, to be fair. A lot of games in this space end up narrowing over time. Like, they start really broad, and then everyone kind of funnels into the same few builds or the same route of playing the game. And with WINDBOUND, I think we're deliberately trying to just do our own thing. Like, we want the world to stay wide, even after you've played it for a while. The thing is, I know it probably sounds pretty cliche, but I think each time you play is like a genuinely different experience. Like, there's so many different choices and like build opportunities, and that's why there's like a heavy focus on experimentation, because you kind of got to find your own playstyle and what you enjoy the most. And I think it's less about trying to be better than other games or trying to compete with them. Like, we're trying to build something here that like stays interesting and is kind of its own thing, if that makes sense. Is the world worth exploring, and is the map worth getting lost in? Yeah, it definitely is worth exploring, and if it wasn't, I don't think there'd be much point in making it this big, and I definitely would have been fired by now. Yeah, but we've been really careful about not just making stuff or filling space for the sake of it. Like, sometimes you'll explore somewhere and you'll come away with, I don't know, maybe you find a class trainer, or you get some cool loot, you find like a faction contact or something. And other times, it's kind of just context. I don't think exploring in this game feels like a chore. And I guess that's what you mean by worth getting lost in. Like, you do find yourself getting lost in the world. And it's just kind of a natural flow. Like, you're going to go through the world to progress through the game anyway. You'll just naturally fall into that and get lost. So if you like wandering off and seeing what happens, then this is the kind of game for you. How big is the game, and what kind of scale are you aiming for? It's pretty big. Like, it's big, but it's not in an endless way. Like, we're more interested in density, I'd say, than just raw size. And that applies to kind of all areas of the game. So, in my area of expertise, for example, instead of one massive map where half of it doesn't matter, like, as you know, the game is split into Sky Islands. You've got regions that actually feel distinct from each other and offer different things to find and explore, different factions, for example. And after a while, you'll start recognizing places, but there's still always stuff that you've never had a reason to see yet. Will there be in-depth and unique lore? Okay, I love this question because this is kind of one of my areas. I have a huge passion for world building, and I've been involved in a lot of the writing and lore for WINDBOUND. Yeah, there definitely is in-depth and unique lore, but you kind of want to have to find it. Like, we're not stopping the game every 5 minutes to explain the history to you. A lot of it's environmental and a lot of it's implied. If you're looking to piece things together yourself, then there's a bunch there, and if not, like I said earlier, the game still works. Why are WINDBOUND's main 4 islands in the sky? Yeah, wouldn't you like to know? Well, yeah, there's a reason, obviously, but like I just said, I'm not gonna give you that reason on a plate. That's one of the big things in WINDBOUND, is if you're into that stuff, then you kind of go out and piece it together yourself. And there's a reason behind that, because different groups in the world, for example, have very different ideas about what's actually happened. And that's intentional, you know, just like real life history, you've got different interpretations or different beliefs or opinions on what happened. And what I don't really want is a single clean answer that gets told to you. I mean, of course, there is one, but where's the fun in that? You know, it's more interesting if you start noticing things that don't quite line up, depending on who you listen to and the things that you see. So yeah, there's history there, but you know, it's not just written there for you to see. It's messy, you know. What kind of progression will WINDBOUND follow? This isn't just a straight answer, because obviously we're still working and adding progression, so I can only really talk about what we've got and what we've got planned. But it's definitely not a bandit beater. I mean, I guess you could play it like a bandit beater if you really wanted to, but it's not really the intentional or most fun way to play the game. Progression just comes from doing things, like exploring, fighting, doing quests. Literally anything in the game can you progress from. And you know, it's not really intended to sit in one spot and grinding the same thing for hours. I mean, I guess you could, but you're probably gonna come to a plateau eventually. If you're moving through the world and exploring and actually interacting with it, then you're progressing. How in-depth is progression going to be in the game? I think progression's pretty in-depth and varied. There's a lot of choice for progression. There's a lot going on under the hood in general, but you don't need to understand all of it to enjoy the game. Like, you can play pretty instinctively and still do well and have fun. But if you do like thinking about builds and synergies and just long-term stuff, then there's a lot to get stuck into. It's kind of up to you how you want to progress and how deep you want to go with that. But progression's not just like one linear thing, it's layered. So, like I said earlier about different class categories and stuff and all these things that go into your character makeup, you progress these things in different ways. So, you've obviously got your base character getting stronger over time. But classes are progressed and unlocked in their own ways, and each class has its own little unique story and adventure and way to progress and unlock it. And they send you off to do some things that you probably wouldn't do otherwise, and it's a pretty unique experience. And then alongside that, you can also progress with factions, and there's other side stuff that you can progress, which you can probably like use your imagination and think of, but not everything's just about getting a number up or going to kill this enemy, for example. So even when 2 players or 2 runs of the game are at the same point, they can feel like they're in completely different places. What is the main thing for replayability? Okay, yeah, so replayability is a huge one. Obviously, we're making this very big game with a big world, so we want people to be able to replay it and enjoy the game. Replayability mainly comes from how much you mess around with things, and as you come to learn the game, you'll pick up on things, and there'll be things that you want to try out. Whether that's picking up different classes on a run or doing different quests. You can get dragged into different bits of story depending on what you poke at and where you explore and so on. And then there's stuff you unlock just by playing. And what do I mean by that? Like, without going into too much, as I've said earlier in the video, there is archetypes for your character, and you will start out with these archetypes. And if you do specific criteria or achievements during a run, you can unlock new archetypes. And these actually change how you start the game and how you will play the game. New skill trees open up, and there's new options straight out the gate. And that opens up whole build varieties that weren't on the table before. So that is a big thing with replayability. Will Windbound have a bridge between PvE and PvP, or will there be weapons and builds suited more towards one of those? Will it even have builds in the first place? Yes, the games have builds. It's a huge part of the game. And to answer the rest of that question, we've actually spoke about this a lot, and we don't want a hard split where PvE builds are useless in PvP and vice versa. Some stuff will obviously lean one way, but generally a build will feel like your build wherever you take it. You know, we don't want it to just be completely useless in one situation or the other. I feel like that kind of takes you out of the world and just puts you into one side of it and you can't enjoy the other, you know. PvP's there. The PvP in this game is very good. I really enjoy it. Obviously, maybe I'm slightly biased, but it's not the only thing that matters. You're not forced into PvP, but the game feels better when there's always a little bit of tension, you know. Will there be spells or any sort of magic? Yes, there is magic. If you have seen the sneaks or been following the game in any way, shape or form, then you will know that there is magic. Initially, when you make a character, there's a lot of things you choose when you're making your character. You'll choose a group of magic, and that kind of sets the direction for what's opened up to you later down the line. There is a lot of magic in the game, lots of abilities made. They change your build completely depending on what you use and what path you go down and all the rest of it. On top of that, there are other groups of magic that you can get into during the game and later into the game as well, but I won't go too much into that at the minute. But yeah, short answer is there is plenty of magic, so do not worry about that. Windbound is a magical world. Permadeath. Is the game Permadeath? Oh, Permadeath. Oh, what a good question. The thing that we all hate, right? I'm not going to tiptoe around the point. Yes, Windbound is Permadeath, but it's not in the way that you're thinking. You know, it's the game is built around Permadeath. Essentially, the game has these high risk, high reward areas where you can lose a percentage of your life if you die there. But it's not like you're not forced to go to these high risk areas and risk everything. You know, it's like you go there, you can play the game at your own pace, and if you want to go there eventually, or the story takes you that way, then you go there when you're ready. You're not forced into that. Wiping is not the be all end all though. Like I said earlier, you're able to progress and open up more opportunities by wiping, and on top of that, if you do wipe, we have spoken about ways of making it more forgiving and, you know, potentially ways of getting your stuff back or getting some of your stuff back, so it's not like the end of the world, but it's not super easy to wipe in the game. You kind of have to put yourself in these situations. Don't worry, it's not permadeath in the sense of it's just there to punish you. Dying and wiping can be rewarding, but yeah, that's what I'll say on permadeath for now. How far along into development are we? We're far enough that the core of the game is there. But obviously it's still early days, you know, it's early enough that a lot can still change. I want to say that we're around a year and a half roughly in development, and a lot has changed over the time, but the core vision of the game is still there, and we've been pursuing that. We've not been remaking things over and over, you know, we planned out the game from the start, and that's the game that we're making. The thing with Windbound is it's a big game, it's a big project. The game is already huge. The amount of content in the game is already very big, but it's such a big game that everything needs to tie together well. We can't just have one part of the game really good and then another part of the game just nothing there, because that would be silly and we'd just be letting ourselves down. But yeah, there's a great team behind this project, and I'm very happy that I get to work with these people, very talented, creative and hardworking people, because I think we've got something very good here, very promising, and we don't want to rush that. Obviously, we're working very hard. You know, we want to get the game out, but we want it to be something that feels finished when it arrives, something that we're proud of and something that people can enjoy, but still with room to grow, because, you know, we want this game to last a long time. You know, we don't want to finish the game and leave it. We want to create this ever-growing world and experience that we feel happy to work on, you know? Alright, I think I'll probably leave this here before it turns into a podcast. Genuinely though, I do appreciate how many of you are interested in this project already. It does help, you know, it gives a lot of motivation and it helps building something like this. Please, thank you everyone for your questions, and keep them coming in the comments. Next video I'll probably dive into something a bit deeper, and maybe show you some behind the scenes of it. You never know. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next Tavern Talk, guys. Goodbye.